So in the exhibition, I'm showing Nation State, and Nation State is a continuation of an interest that I've started probably in 2009 of trying to work with science fiction to contextualize Middle Eastern problems. And Nation State continues on that. It's a film that I made in 2012, so it's pretty much in the early stages of when I started working in that way. And the reason why I work with science fiction is that it's sometimes easier when things reach an impasse, especially if you think about Middle Eastern politics, to start positing the problems in the future. And somehow future scenarios inform what's happening politically in the present. It doesn't mean that I'm running away from the politics of what's happening right now, but it's a different way of trying to approach it. In Nation State, you see me as a resident of this huge skyscraper coming back from Amman, and it starts with me using the Amman Express. This is very autobiographical because the only way I can actually enter Palestine is to go through Amman, because as Palestinians we're not allowed into Israel, which would be the fastest and easiest way to move. So the building is a future imagining of a Palestine that's very different, very all encapsulated in one skyscraper that's very advanced, very high tech, and I enter that building, and then I go to take the lift, go to Bethlehem, and that's where my apartment is. So I go there and I open the window, and at the end of the film you see me looking at the real historic Palestine, and when the camera zooms out you see me surrounded by the Israeli wall. So it's a comment on even in a futuristic setting where we it's obviously a sarcastic take on a kind of a development of what could happen to the Palestinian situation, and that even when it's high tech and it's the most convenient futuristic skyscraper scene, it's still a prison, really. So it is obviously a comment on maybe utopia and dystopia at the same time, in the sense that whatever idyllic situations we come up with, they always have to be taken with a grain of salt. But in this particular work, it's very blatant that this is an ironic take on what is happening in Palestine, or of any solutions. It's as I said, it's quite biographical, because I actually I'm born in Jerusalem, and I grew up in Bethlehem. But ever since the separation wall was built by the state of Israel, Palestinians who are on one side of the wall cannot enter into the other side. So actually, I cannot ever go into Jerusalem, the place that I was born in. And Bethlehem is now being slowly surrounded more and more by expanding settlements, Israeli settlements that are illegal, really, and by the wall, the Israeli wall. And so it's choking the city, and it's nothing more than an open air prison. When we start imagining or thinking about a viable Palestinian state, it's very hard to understand how that could work when Palestinian towns are separated from one another by Israeli corridors. So it's like a Swiss kind of cheese. So it's impossible to understand how any state can be, Palestinian state could actually amount with from this kind of separation. So this is a a sarcastic take on the fact that we keep talking and talking about a peace solution, but while this is happening, the Israel is continuing with their land grabs, and the idea of a Palestinian state is becoming less and less viable. Being Palestinian obviously informs a lot of what I do. I didn't have a European passport until I think 10 years ago. So just traveling with a Palestinian document makes life almost impossible. So the idea of being constantly dependent on getting permits or being allowed here or there, feeling that you're not really kind of on equal terms with other people, always makes you obviously puts you in the position of the marginalized, and therefore it's very hard to accept, say, mainstream systems, or you question that from an early age of why are you in that position. So obviously it then informs everything that you do. And I think for people who have grown up in war-torn zones or under occupation, like with the case of Palestinians, it's very hard to think about daily life or anything without thinking about the politics that you have been subjected to. So even going from point A to B, you have to understand what the situation is in Palestine. So just the movement is very hard for a Palestinian. And sometimes it also informs me, informs my work in the sense that I sometimes feel that I need to defy the idea of what, say, a Palestinian artist, a Middle Eastern artist, or even a woman artist from the Middle East is supposed to really do. My work is becoming more and more kind of based on big budgets. It's very slick. The idea of it being quite expensive looking is very important for me, because I kind of, it's almost part of the, formally it is a gesture as well, that I do not want to be somebody who's working with handheld or found footage, or so that obviously informs my work. And so in that sense, you cannot really, remove the artist from their context, I guess.